Now I know some of you would look at me and say, well, are you about to say the same thing about Kansas fans, John? Would you say that with a 1-2 start there and a really wickedly disappointing start that you feel for Kansas fans as well? You're probably not going to feel for them quite as much. Well, there are some Kansas fans in my life that perhaps I do. There are others that aren't in my life, but that I'm aware of that maybe I don't feel quite as bad for. But yes, Kansas finds itself in a very similar position in terms of the start that they've had, how bitterly disappointing it has been, and the fact that they seemingly have lost trust in somebody. For West Virginia fans, that was Neil Brown. For Kansas fans, that's Jalen Daniels. And it is crazy what's going on with Jalen Daniels right now. A guy who has turned it over 6 times. Well, I guess it is 7. Everybody taught the fumble in that Illinois game. That was right. That was the last play, right? I have a hard time really faulting him for that, but he's thrown 6 picks through 3 games. It's not good. It's not good right now. Daniels looks like a shell of himself, and whether it's rust, whether it's working with Jeff Grimes as opposed to Andy Kotelnicki, I don't know. They have a new offensive line coach. I know I saw Lance Leipold point out, hey, nobody talks about, like, we've got a new offensive line coach too. Maybe there's something going on there. I don't know. Whatever it is, the combination of the infrastructure of KU's offense is not getting it done with Daniels right now. And if he continues to play like that, I mean, they're going to have a hard time becoming a bowl eligible team this year, I would say. Now, I don't think he's going to play that poorly all of the rest of this season. I think there's enough of a track record on him being a pretty good quarterback, albeit I think now we can say with an elite offensive coordinator that was definitely helping him out. But I feel like there's enough talent there that they'll figure out a way to win some games. But I don't think that they're, straight on the hype train all the way to the college football playoff, which is definitely what the Kansas offseason was billed as. I do have to say this, though, about Daniels and about the KU situation right now. Like, Kansas fans have lost trust to the point where obviously you're hearing a lot of, like, hey, bench Jalen Daniels. And you're seeing boos coming out at the home stadium, the temporary home stadium of the Kansas Jayhawks on Saturday. People are booing the kid. I mean, we're 3 games into the season. A month ago, this was a guy you were all heralding as a Heisman candidate and attacking viciously anybody that would say that he's not, coming after him. And man, turned on him fast in Lawrence. There's a lot happening there. I'll get to the why I think people turn on him so fast in just a moment. But in terms of the legitimacy of the claim there, bench Jalen Daniels, that is crazy. That is crazy. And I am not saying that Jalen Daniels has played good football, because he has not at all. But you are punting on your season. You are waving the white flag if you are Kansas and you're benching Jalen Daniels. That's exactly what you're doing, because no other quarterback on that roster, at least at this point in their careers, has upside of making it to the Big 12 championship game. Jalen Daniels does. I know they really like Zeke Marshall. Is that the freshman? I know people really like him long term, but as a true freshman, I don't think that kid is ready to go out there. And I don't think it would be fair to say he's got Big 12 title game upside this year. Maybe later in his career, not this year. Cole Ballard, yes, looked pretty competent and pretty slippery against K-State last year. Had K-State on the ropes. He had K-State on the ropes with an Andy Kotelnicki game plan behind him that was unbelievable. That is one of the best efforts from an offensive coordinator I can remember seeing in recent memory last year. The K-State-Kansas game in Lawrence. Kotelnicki did a tremendous job there. It's fair to say he did a tremendous job scheming things up for Jalen Daniels. We can't even compare the talent level, no offense to Cole Ballard, of Ballard and Jalen Daniels. So you want to see a Jeff Grimes-led Cole Ballard out there in Big 12 play on the field? Like, is that really what Kansas fans want? I don't understand it, man. Kansas's hope for this year is that Jalen Daniels figures it out. That's the hope. It is wild to me that you've got Kansas fans advocating for him to be benched right now. That is not the way. That is not the way. Now, as for the why you've got Kansas fans really pushing for that and booing him on the home field 3 weeks in, it's not just because, yes, they're fans and it's Twitter, and that's how this has all gone down ever since the day that Twitter became something that was available for people to complain with, right? Like, fan bases are generally going to complain, but you also here have a Kansas fan base that is full of people who are used to winning an awful lot in basketball. Every single year without fail, doesn't matter. They get it figured out. They get it turned around. Bill Self goes through some adversity every year, and they always come out as a 1, 2, 3 seed in the NCAA tournament, and things are fine. There's not much worry in the Kansas basketball world. You don't face the typical stresses or realities. More so, you don't face the typical realities that 99% of other fan bases in men's basketball and football across the country face. It's just, it's a different reality. It creates a sense of entitlement and earned arrogance, and it is earned. I mean, the program earns it, but it's a sense of earned arrogance and entitlement that has now bled over to football once football got good enough to get them emotionally invested. Here is your Kansas fan who's typically just been invested in basketball. They're used to winning all the time. They lose 2 games back to back. Sky is falling. Well, now you're here in football. You got emotionally invested. Everybody told you in Kansas world that, well, Jalen Daniels is great. Of course, he'll come back. No problem. It'll be awesome. Leipold keeps building every year. The wins keep going up. So why would they not go up this year when we return almost everybody? Just simple math, John. Of course, that's what's going to happen. And I see it happen all the time in basketball. So, of course, it's going to happen like that as I'm a Kansas football fan. Not how it works. Not how it works. A little bit tougher, a little bit different game. You are not Kansas basketball in the Kansas football world. So you've had, I think, too much of a sense of entitlement from that fan base, just expecting everything to go really, really smoothly. And unfortunately for Kansas, it's not the way that it's worked out. But look, you don't have to take advice from me, Kansas fans. I know many of you won't. My advice would be, you better just support Jalen Daniels and hope that that's the guy that figures it out, because that is your path to having anywhere near the kind of season that you anticipated heading into this year. And it's still all out there. You do not have a Big 12 loss yet. It is still all out there for you. It'll start with a huge game in Morgantown. Fascinating desperation bowl between Kansas and West Virginia on Saturday in Morgantown. Okay, you guys want my Big 12 power? I'm going to do 2 things here real quick. I know I have some super chats. I'm going to get to those in just a moment. I'm going to give you my Big 12 power rankings because I just put these together for the Open for Business newsletter, which, big time flub by me. I have not mentioned that yet. If you're a Big 12 fan and you want stuff like this coming to your inbox twice a week, no SEC news, no Big 10 news, none of that. You don't have to wade through that when reading college football news. I will tell you what it means for the Big 12, what's important to the Big 12, right to your inbox for free. You can sign up at ofbnews.com. ofbnews.com. 2,200 plus other Big 12 fans are already reading it. The Open for Business newsletter. Make sure you get signed up. ofbnews.com.